Hello guys, this is your Justice analyst Kirill from Germany, and it's time to talk about the results of the first semi-final. First of all, I just want to say what a great show it was. I really liked the semi-finals format where the whole show just fits in this 2 hours. You know, it goes kind of quick. You get the results quite quickly. It's done. While the Eurovision final is a very long show, what not everyone can really sit through. So it was really enjoyable. I think the interval acts were quite fun. In the beginning, it was great that they paid a sort of tribute to the artists who did not necessarily win Eurovision, but who still became quite famous and popular in the Eurovision community. Because, you know, more often we, of course, see the winners coming all over again to the Eurovision stage. And now we had the second, third places tribute, which was great. I think it was an amazing opener. Also, it was great to see how Benjamin Ingrosso matured. I think his interval act was great, even though for me, these three different songs felt more like one long song. So we were kind of waiting till maybe it's getting over. It felt like one endless song, but it was still done really well. I'm really glad to see that, even though maybe in Eurovision he was not the most successful artist, he still got fame in Sweden. But now let's start with 5 countries which unfortunately didn't make it to the final, and we start with Poland. I have to admit, I have really loved her performance. It was so playful, exactly what in my initial reaction for the Polish entry I have said they should go for. So it looked like they just listened to what I have said in that reaction and just did this on stage. It was a great vibe. I think her singing was also not necessarily bad. Sometimes you could just hardly hear her because the backing vocals were so overpowering. Maybe it was a decision by the Polish delegation, taking into account that Luna's vocals were not so strong and not so stable. I think she did well. Also, the note in the end of the song she also has hit quite well. So in general, it was, I wouldn't say a flawless performance, but a very good one. She can definitely be very proud of it. And I think the main reason why Poland didn't qualify was purely the fact that not all songs from the first half can qualify. It was the only one which didn't qualify, and it was sandwiched between 2 such powerful entries between Ukraine and Croatia. So in the end, it was a bad luck for Poland. Unfortunately, as expected, Hera didn't make it through. I mean, it was not a huge surprise, the song is just not really powerful enough. I think Hera did a really good job with her performance, but still it felt a little bit lazy, the whole performance concept. In the first 30 seconds he has shown basically everything what we will see in these 3 minutes, but I don't think Icelandic delegation just really wanted to invest a lot into this because it was pretty clear that she will be out no matter what they do. So at the end of the day, thank you Hera for this nice performance. I hope we see you again in Eurovision. Now Moldova, so one of the countries which I saw as a sort of borderline qualifier. After I have seen the whole live performance, for me it was pretty much clear it's done. Unfortunately, the visuals behind Natalia were just looking so cheap. It looked like something what was generated by AI or something with this artificial bubbles roaming around. It looked really cheap. I think Moldovan delegation didn't have as much budget as some other countries. Natalia vocally was absolutely stunning. I have really enjoyed watching her, but for me it was also hurting to see this kind of cheap performance. And unfortunately, Azerbaijan has shared the same fate as Moldova, even though I don't think Azerbaijani delegation had any problems with the budget. It's normally one of the countries which is ready to invest in Eurovision so much money. Unfortunately, the concept which they went for with the Eurovision performance was totally wrong. The costumes looked ridiculous. The artists didn't really feel very comfortable on stage. And yeah, this whole black and gray color scheme didn't really help them to stand out. So after I saw the live performance, for me, it was very much clear it's done with Azerbaijan this year, even though I was putting them as one of my borderline qualifying countries. So after the performance, it was clear they will not qualify. It was just the question who will take their spot. And I would say the country which left me bitter the most after the semi-final was definitely Australia. I think the performance was great, such a high energy. You really wanted to dance along with them, sing along with them. I think they have really lacked this kind of neighbor-friendly votes in the semi-final because obviously Australia doesn't have any neighbor countries. I'm really curious to see where exactly they have finished. I would expect they were somewhere very, very close to the qualification. But the last chorus was really lacking something. It was basically doing the same what the first ones were doing. Like the beginning was absolutely stunning. Towards the time when Fred comes with his instrument, it was all like, growing, going somewhere. But in the end, it was not going anywhere. Anyway, I have voted for Australia. I really wanted Australia to qualify, but there are just 10 spots in the final. But now let's talk about the 10 countries which actually made it. And we will start, of course, with the first announced country, Serbia. Well, Teya Dora sang her song really beautifully. The light was quite nice, even though in the beginning it was a little bit too dark. Towards the end it was really beautiful. This prompt, this rock on which she was kind of laying was looking really great. I still didn't really expect that with such ballads she can really qualify from the spot number 2, but really applause to her for making it possible. I think also, of course, the votes from Croatia, Slovenia and Serbs around Europe have definitely helped, but this wouldn't be enough if the song would be bad. So really good for her, but let's see where she will perform in the final, because she has been drawn producer's choice, which means the producers will determine if she will be one of the openers of the show, or will be closing the show, or will be somewhere in the middle. So it can go any way for Serbia there. And our next qualifier was Portugal. Even though Portugal was often ranked also by the bookmakers as sort of non-qualifying country, I was pretty much sure she will make it, especially after seeing the rehearsal. So I think this was a very, very solid qualifier. I don't think she qualified from one of the last places. Really great performance, vocally, visually, it was just absolutely flawless, absolutely perfect. So I think Iolanda will also do pretty good in the final, especially with the juries. She has been drawn producer's choice as well, so if she will be somewhere towards closing the show, hopefully she will get some points from the televoters as well. But in general, I'm happy that the juries will be able to rank her, because they will definitely rank her very well. Oh my god, what a relief it was when Slovenia was announced. I have basically voted more than, I think, 10 times for Slovenia in the semi-final. I was really rooting for her to qualify. I enjoyed her performance so much, especially after seeing kind of disappointing stagings from Azerbaijan, Moldova. Slovenia was basically my number 1 in this final, maybe together with the Ukrainian entry. Really powerful performance. Some visuals were absolutely stunning. Do you remember this moment when some light was on her dress and then it was illuminating a little bit? Really, really stunning. We all were like speechless in this moment. It was looking super great. In general, this performance is such a piece of art. It would be just a crime to leave it in the semifinals, and Raiven definitely deserved to be in the final. And after Slovenia, my other favorite was announced, even though here it was no surprise. Ukraine, absolutely mind-blowing performance. Visuals are absolutely incredible. The rapping part is great. The part which Heil is doing is absolutely phenomenal. So in general, amazing performance. I think it will be one of my main favorites in the final too. So with the next country, I know some of you had some doubts about Lithuania qualifying or not, even though, the scoreboard app, the bookmakers, everyone was pretty much sure that Lithuania will make it. I also have not ranked the chances of Lithuania as 100%. I still had some doubts, especially taking into account that they are performing at the beginning of the lineup. But after I have seen the performance, after I have heard how the crowd goes wild with this one, in comparison, for example, to Cyprus, who performed just 10 minutes before them, you saw how much crowd stands behind this one, how they enjoy it. It looked so modern, so sleek, really like a perfect performance. I think the only improvement point would be that Silvester would move a little bit more, but I think generally the female artists, they tend to vibe with their songs a little bit more than the male ones. So generally really good, and Silvester has been drawn first half of the final. So unfortunately, again, he will be somewhere in the beginning of the show, so I don't expect a very high result for Lithuania there, especially because they will get not very high results from the juries, I'm afraid. But I'm happy to see Lithuania again in the final. Well, another country where some of you had doubts, I was still ranking, I think, their qualification chances as 90%, so for me it was quite a solid qualifier. I think the performance looked really funny, even though we all saw it so many times. I was watching it with friends. We again laughed about it because, of course, the camera angles and so on were slightly different than in the Finnish UMK. So it looked really great. I'm happy for them that they qualified. Finland already a second year in a row is bringing us this kind of party vibe at the Eurovision stage. I think they can continue with this trend. We need more of such performances and such songs. And Finland has been drawn second half of the finals, so I wouldn't be surprised if they would be like closing the show as well. It's a great entry to, finish the whole lineup of the performers, but let's see.
Take a look at yourself, 'cause that is what you need to do.
So Silia had a very tough job to perform her bop after Eleni Foureira and Chanel. So of course many of us had concerns that this might impact her chances also negatively. But in the end, she managed to qualify also from the spot number 1, even though her staging was really a little bit too dark. I was also a bit concerned that her staging was kind of black and blue, and then afterwards came Serbia with the same colors, and then also Lithuania had in the beginning of performance the same colors, so it all looked very, very dark in the beginning. And I have to say, even towards the end of the show, I completely forgot about Cyprus. It was actually one of my favorite songs as well, maybe my top 5, let's say. And when I was voting for my favorite songs, I completely forgot about the existence of Cyprus, so I didn't vote even one time for them. But I think Silia did a good job. Vocally, it was on point. Maybe in the beginning it was really shaky, but then she got confidence back and it was looking great. Her dancing was good. Even though the dance break was nothing special, in general, it looked really, really slick. And she has been drawn second half, so I'm glad for her that now she doesn't have to fight from the beginning of the show, and she will be somewhere in the middle or towards the end. So I'm really happy to see Lyra in the final. I think we need more of such pops in the Eurovision final show.
There's no going back.
So did anyone have any doubts about Croatia this year qualifying to the final or not? I think not really. It was a very powerful and charismatic performance. I really loved the vibe which he was giving to us. He was so confident, his vocals were quite sleek, and the whole performance was really well thought through. If this is one of the candidates to win in the final, I don't know. I really cannot see the jury standing so much behind it, so kind of similar to Finland last year. I think he will get a good result with the televote, but the juries will not rank him as one of their favorites. But I have to say, here you really have to appreciate that he has written the song completely by himself, the message behind the song. So it is, in my opinion, a little bit more authentic and genuine as the entry from Karia last year. But on the other hand, I also see that in general, it doesn't get such a huge wow factor as Karia got last year. Maybe because his performance is not as provocative as the one from Karia, and also maybe because after last year's Finland, people are kind of not surprised by this type of songs anymore. Well, Bambi fuck, what a performance it was. I mean, we all already knew after the rehearsals it will be fire, it will be a huge explosion, it will be something unforgettable, and it definitely was unforgettable. So some of the camera shots, especially when they film like from the top where you can see this pentagram and all the candles, it looks absolutely magnificent, like a high quality horror movie, maybe something about Dracula or something like this, Dracula 2024 whatsoever. So really, really powerful. How well it can do in the final, I have really no idea. I can definitely see the televoters standing behind that, but in the same way, I can definitely see juries ranking it as one of the last. So we just have to wait and see. Bambi was drawn first half of the final, which is of course a little bit unfortunate if you want to get more points from the televoters. But I think if producers will give them one of the later slots, for example 13, which would be quite funny taking into account the message of the song, then I think they really stand still very good chances to maybe even win the televote on the final. And our last qualifier was Tali. I am super happy that Luxembourg made it from their first attempt to the final. I think also, of course, not without help from the producers, because they were performing last and, there was additional talking about Luxembourg being back and so on. So really great job for them. I'm happy that they made it through. And I also have to say, Tali looked really spectacular on this evening. I really liked that they made her braids thicker. It really has fit her face and her body much better than those thin ones which she had before. So she looked great. The performance, well, I can't say was very memorable or especially spectacular, and unfortunately Luxembourg has been drawn first half of the final, so I think the producers will put them somewhere towards the beginning of the show, and in the end Luxembourg will most probably finish on one of the last places in the final. I can't really see people standing behind this song in the final where you have so much competition. So this is what I have thought about all these 15 countries qualifying or not qualifying from the semi-final. In general, I have to say it was quite predictable, everything what we have seen. So if you remember my predictions, my top 8 countries have confidently made it to the final. My 9th and 10th place, which I was putting kind of on the edge of qualifying, didn't make it through. But on the other hand, Serbia and Slovenia, who made it through, I was not like completely writing them off. It was for me clear that they have a chance. It's just when you see only the small rehearsal clip and you don't know how the whole performance will look like, it's a bit hard to guess. And in my case, really, Azerbaijan destroyed their chances by the live performance. On the other hand, Serbia looked much better with the whole performance, especially the ending of the song was great. And Slovenia, also I was afraid that only the last part which we saw in the rehearsal is powerful, but actually the whole performance was great. And talking just quickly about our outer finalists, I have to say the UK performance was such a train wreck. The live vocals of Oli were just really terrible, so we all agreed that even though the song is kind of catchy and very well for the radio, the live performance just doesn't work, even though the visuals are also quite memorable. With this kind of live vocals, he just can't have any high place. Germany, on the other hand, has shown us really spectacular vocals. I think the performance was also looking very well with all this fire, but surprisingly for me, the last chorus of the song, which is supposed to be the most powerful, was actually the weakest part of the song because the fire goes off. We have a couple of backing vocalists on the stage, but they're all kind of far away. These platforms which were full of fire are still there and just looking like something what has burned completely or something. I'm not sure, just black. And the last chorus was really kind of boring. I think it would be good if the song would finish before the last chorus. I think it's now too late to really change that, but it might really cost Germany some votes in the final. And well, about Sweden, you can't really say much. I think the boys got even more confident. The performance still looked as great as it looked at Melody Festival, but we will see very soon how well they can do. Please tell me, what have you thought about the semi-final? Were you shocked by any of the qualifiers or non-qualifiers? Let me know down below in the comments. Subscribe, because very soon we will have the second semi-final and I can't wait to talk to you about the results of that one. See you in the next one. Bye bye.